Have you heard of something called stacking order, maybe from the other programs that you use on a regular basis? Essentially what it means is the order in which all of the objects inside your document are stacked on top of one another, right? Hence the name stacking order. Now, the trick to know about is that in every software application, it's exactly the same rule. And that rule says that new shapes are always drawn on top of old shapes. Now, let me show you what I mean. I've got 3 random shapes here, and I hope you still have some shapes on screen as well. I just kind of changed up my shapes a little bit here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my shapes and I'm going to sort of layer them or overlap them on top of one another. Maybe something like that, right? And you can see that the green star in my document is on top of the other 2 shapes. But how do I really know that the green star was the last shape that I drew? Well, obviously in the real world I would remember, but let me show you this here. I'm going to go over to my toolbox, I'm going to grab my rectangle tool, and I'm going to make sure that that shape overlaps or sort of intersects all the other shapes inside my document. Maybe something like this, right? And then what I'll do is I'll quickly go and throw in fill color once again. So I'll just quickly head over to my object properties, uniform fill, and I'll make sure that this guy has a fill color of, let's say, this orange. Okay, something like that I think is just fine. All right, I'll collapse down my object properties. Now, there you go. You can see that my rectangle clearly is sitting on top of all the other shapes, right? So that's what I mean by new shapes always being drawn on top of old shapes. That's always the way it works, right? So definitely keep that in mind. All right, now I just switched back to my pick tool because now what I want to do is I want to start messing with my stacking order. I want to take this new object that I just drew and I want to send it all the way to the back of the stacking order. In other words, I want it to appear behind all of the other shapes inside my document, right? So make sure you have your shapes selected there. And then what I'll do is I'll head up to the Arrange menu and then down to Order. Now the Order submenu, here's where all of your stacking commands reside, right? So what I'll do is I'll choose to back of page. So in other words, I want to send this guy all the way to the back of my document or my page. And when I choose that command, bang, there you can see that my orange rectangle now sits behind all of the other objects, right? Okay, very cool stuff. The other thing that I can do, not only can I send an object all the way to the back of the stacking order, I can take an object and bring it all the way to the front of the stacking order. And I'll show you that maybe by using the same shape. I'll go and select that orange rectangle once again, and then I'll head back to the Arrange menu, back down to Order, and then this time I'll choose to front of page. And by the way, if you like your keyboard shortcuts, you can see them there inside the menu. In any regard, I'm going to choose to front of page. In other words, bring this object all the way to the front of the stacking order. Very cool stuff. I hope this is making sense for you. It's pretty straightforward stuff. Okay, now the next thing that I can do with my stacking order is instead of taking an object and sending it all the way to the back or bringing it all the way to the front, what I can do is I can bring it up one step or I can send it back one step, if that makes sense. So what I'll do maybe is I'll use my same shape here, my orange rectangle, and this time what I'll do is I'll head up to the Arrange menu once again, down to Order once again, and then what I'll do is I'll say back 1. There's that command right there. Or control page down for you keyboard shortcut fans there. So back 1. Now what happens is the orange rectangle is placed behind my green star. Perfect. Now the other thing that I could do is I could take an object and bring it forward 1 step. So what I'll do here is I'll grab a different shape. You can use the same shape if you want. It doesn't really matter. And I'll go back to Arrange, back down to Order, and then this time I want to go forward 1. Wonderful stuff. There you go. So is this making sense, the whole idea of stacking order? It's a pretty important concept to grasp, but I think it's a pretty straightforward concept. And if you're having a tough time with it, honestly, draw out some pretty basic shapes like I have here, overlap them all, and just start fiddling around, and it will click for you if you're having a tough time with this. Okay, I want to show you one more method for adjusting and changing your stacking order, right? I'm going to take my blue rectangle, who is sitting all the way at the back of the stack here, and I can tell this shape to appear in front of another shape inside my document. Check this out. So I've got this guy selected here. I'll go back to the Arrange menu, back down to order, and then what I'll do is I'll say in front of. And when I choose that command, my cursor changes to a black arrow. Now, what's cool about this is essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the shape that I want my blue rectangle to sit in front of. Does that make sense? So what I'll do is I'll click on my yellow circle, for example. And what that does is that takes the blue rectangle and brings it in front of the shape, the yellow circle that I just clicked on. Do you want to see that one more time? Okay, I'll grab my orange rectangle this time, and I'll go Arrange, and then down to Order, and then down to In Front Of. So Arrange, Order, In Front Of, and then all I'll do is click on the shape that I want the orange rectangle to sit in front of. So maybe what I'll do here is I'll click on my green star. And that brings the orange rectangle in front of the green star, which it would be the same as taking this object and bringing him all the way to the front of the stacking order, right? Okay, very cool. Now, the other thing that I can do is I can use a similar command to tell an object to go behind another object. So what I'll do is I'll use my orange rectangle for this guy. He's still selected. Arrange, Order, and then this time Behind. And what I'll do with my cursor, again changing to a black arrow there, is I'll click on the shape that I want to send the orange rectangle behind. And that will be my blue rectangle, for example. Click on that guy. And the orange rectangle, of course, is sent behind the blue rectangle. So anyway, there you go. There's your stacking order.
To change your